Sunday.
It's Sunday morning.
I love mornings.
The games are over, and we're breaking it all down. This is your Morning After podcast, with all the insight and analysis on the Utes, Cougars, and Aggies. The Morning After podcast with Hans, Scotty, and Lloyd Cole begins right now.
And he gave us an opportunity to come in here and show what we're made of.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome on in. It's another edition of your Morning After podcast. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope you are all well. Hans, Lloyd, gentlemen, how are you?
Doing pretty good, man. It was a great college weekend and hanging out with the boys and eating some good food. Had some steaks, ate some Giordano's pizza.
Nice. You got that deep dish in you.
Got the deep dish going, and it has been an incredible weekend. Just watching a lot of football. Actually, sitting here watching Vikings and Jets right now. It was 7:30 kickoff, and so we're already up and watching more football.
Well, there's no better way to spend a weekend, and Utah and BYU with the week off. Let's start with Utah State in action. I'm still up in Idaho as Utah State suffered a tough one, 62-30, in a game that, frankly, Hans, wasn't even that close. As Utah State able to add some late touchdowns, Boise State really took the foot off the pedal in the second half. Ashton Jeanty, who had 180 some odd yards rushing in the first half alone, did not play a single snap in the second half. And he was just an absolute complete monster. And watching him in person, this is the third year I've watched him, but the jump he's made from his sophomore season last year to this year and watching him up close is just phenomenal. This kid is incredible as a college football player as I've ever seen live, and I've seen some great players. I remember watching Jonathan Taylor when he was playing at Wisconsin, and Caleb Young at Alabama, and I can go down the list. I've seen some good ones. Joe Burrow when he was at Cincinnati, or when he was at LSU, called a game of his. I've seen some really good players. I don't know if I can put anybody above Ashton Jeanty with what I've seen at the collegiate level. Now, I don't know how good he's going to be at the next level. I don't know if he is going to be an NFL superstar, but as far as just a complete college player, he's as good as I've seen. And it was just a crazy performance to watch, as the first time he touches the ball, he goes 63 yards for a touchdown. And then a little bit later on, when Utah State cut Boise State's lead to 14-10, the next time he touches the ball, he takes it 75 yards. He's got some explosive ability in the open field, but yet can make guys miss in the tackle box, and he's physical, he's strong, and it was something else, that's for sure.
How you holding up, dude? How's your health? How you feeling?
I'm doing fine. San Bernardino. Yeah. I'm doing all right. Yeah.
San Bernardino. I'll tell you, he looks like a man playing with boys. Like that last touchdown run where he just kind of shook off the defender and just kind of jogged in was impressive. I was curious, so I was like, well, of course you get a big chunk run like a 75-yarder, then what is that? That's gonna help your average. So I went and like checked that, seen what his average was. Once I minus that off, it was still 9.2. Still 9.2. The guy is so good and so fun to watch.
Yeah, it was something else. And the thing that, and I want to make this comparison. I say this loosely, so please, I don't want anybody running out there and be like, he says he's going to be the next Barry Sanders. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is he's got a skill set that reminds me of watching Barry Sanders, where he's got an explosive speed, top-notch speed, which is really incredible, but his ability to shift in the tackle box and make guys miss in a phone booth. It's one thing to make guys miss in the open field, but when you make guys miss at the line of scrimmage within the tackle box, it's just really something to watch. And then his ability to accelerate, stop on a dime, and then reaccelerate is really crazy to watch. And again, it just reminds me of that same skill set that Barry Sanders had.
What do you think of Mad Dog Madsen, the quarterback?
This is no disrespect to Maddox, Hans, and I know that you're close to the family, and I think he's a tremendous quarterback, and I think he's doing everything that Boise State's asked of him. But I will say that he's got one of the easiest jobs on the planet, because anytime you have a running back like that behind you and you can play action out of that, geesh, man, just watch out, because he had guys running wide open, because Utah State and everybody else has to stack the box. You have to put 7-8 guys in the box against that running attack. So everybody's going to bite on the play action. He rolls out. He's accurate as he runs, but he's got dudes running wide open down the field. I mean, it's easy pitch and catch for him.
Well, this is heartbreaking for Coach Driley. Scotty, I know that's not what he expected from his team, and that's a brutal start, brutal half to a game of football, and I'm sure that he's heartbroken. But now this team's got to get ready for a tough UNLV team. You don't got time to cry in your Cheerios. You got to suck it up. You got to find the health and energy and the drive and desire, because the staff is still trying to coach for their lives. And, maybe once they get past UNLV, maybe this is one of those seasons where the back end, you restore some faith, but it's got to be hard. This team, I'll bet they're struggling to stay together, and they're having doubts on why they stayed, and it's probably getting pretty hard in the locker room for them.
Yeah, and the thing is, they've got a short week. They're playing on Friday, and UNLV will have a full week because they lost to Syracuse in overtime on Friday night. So they'll have a full week to prepare. Utah State will have a short week, but they are playing at home, so there are some advantages there. And so if they can beat UNLV, they can get the season back on track. But that UNLV is a must-win game, and that's up against a really hard team, which, as of now is nationally ranked. They'll fall out of the rankings after that loss to Syracuse on Friday. But that's a really good team coming into Maverick Stadium. The one thing, though, is offensively, you had Jeanty with 180 yards rushing in the first half. How about Jalen Royals, who had 200 yards receiving in the first half? So Jalen Royals put up 2 bills receiving. He had 2 long touchdown receptions. You had Petrus, who goes over 300 yards. Faison, who goes over 100 yards. That's only the 6th time in school history the Utah State had a 300-yard passer, a 200-yard receiver, and a 100-yard rusher in the same game, and they still got blown out. I mean, offensively, they were clicking. Defensively, they just couldn't get stops.
How long ago was that?
Well, it has not happened since, I want to say, 2001, and only the 6th time in school history.
Oh, my gosh. So are you feeling okay about Petrus? Because, UNLV is a more winnable game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
obviously,
I agree.
I feel like they could still get that win. But do you feel like Petrus is the right guy?
Petrus took a huge step forward. He was a little shaky at the beginning of the game, but when he settled in, he played his best game. Career high in touchdown passes, career high in passing yards. They diced up Boise State's defense pretty good in that game. And that's the only thing that concerns me about Boise State long term is, in terms of them getting that bid into the automatic G5 bid, is their defense is not great. They're giving up nearly 30 points a game, and Utah State was able to move the ball up and down the field on them. And Utah State had 550 yards of offense in that game, and but unfortunately just couldn't keep pace with what Boise State was doing offensively.
Yeah, Petrus looked sharp in there. He really did. And Royals, that guy could have easily had maybe gone for like 245 because he almost broke that one before that turnover by Page. He almost broke another one for a touchdown. That he had like one guy to beat and would have been gone. Royals he is unbelievable.
Were you missing some defensive personnel, Scotty?
Yeah, they had 4 defensive linemen out in the game, 2 dealing with a shoulder injury. Blaine Spires also dealing with an injury. I was surprised they didn't go. I think there may be more to that. I don't know. But Taz Williams, who's been good on that defensive line, he was out. And so they were playing a lot of youngsters. They had 2 or 3 guys that saw their first appearance of the season in that game yesterday. When you're going up against that rushing attack and that offensive line and the best running back in the country, good luck. That's not good.
Just no breaks given, buddy. No breaks given to that team through going all the way back to when news broke on Blake Anderson and everything started to spiral. And it's like it's just been one thing after the other for this team. And my heart breaks for them. I just hope that they can stay unified and they can find that win that connects them, because if they finished strong, if they got themselves on a nice 4 or 5 game winning streak and finish strong, I still think there's a chance, but it's going to be really tough. This staff has a tough test in front of them.
Yeah. Kind of feels a little bit like 2 years ago. Utah State started the year 1-4. They had that bad loss to Weber State, and then they played Air Force, and Air Force ended up winning 10 games that year. That was a really good Air Force team, and Utah State beat Air Force in Logan, and that turned the season around to the point where they got to a bowl game that year. And so this has that same kind of vibe. If they can beat UNLV, then the schedule really opens up on the back end. I mean, look, you include UNLV, you include Boise State, Utah, and USC. Those are 4 top 25 teams that Utah State's going to play in the first 6 games of the year. I mean, that's I don't care if you're Nate Dreiling or Bill Walsh. That's a tough task to deal with.
Hey, Juice.
You kill Bill Walsh?
Hey, Juice, did you kill Bill Walsh?
And so I don't care who you are as a coach. That's a monstrous task to try to take over for a team, let alone as a 33-year-old doing it for the first time as an interim coach.
Well, I guess the question is then, were you able to at least stop by mom and dad's, get a nice hot baked potato, or?
I am. As we record this, everybody's still like asleep in the house, so I'm actually in my car recording this because I don't want to wake everybody up. So yeah, I am at mom and dad's house here in lovely Burley, Declo, Idaho, and taping a podcast. So yep, good times.
I hope you get some good baked beans. I hope that you're able to rest and recover, because I know you've been through it. Dude, you're a warrior. I wish people knew the depths of what you're fighting through. It's like I add what you're fighting through onto what Utah State's fighting through, and I'm like, geez, man, Logan and Scotty, y'all need a break. I mean, you just need something to go your way.
Yeah. Well, I'm good, man. I appreciate it. And thanks for helping me out on Friday, but we're good. We're ready to rock and roll, and I'm glad you're having a good time down there. I'm just jealous of the deep dish pizza, man. After what we had in Vegas with Greg Wrubell, back in July,
oh, dude.
I'm ready to go another round with that stuff.
I'm just going to tell you, Scotty Brown, my good friend,
yes.
He absolutely knocked it out of the park yesterday. He had Giordano's pizzas that we cooked up, and
you had him.
You had him blown in?
No, he went to Vegas because he's been down here in St. George for a few days, and he went down to Vegas and he picked up some frozen Giordano's from Giordano's.
Oh.
I'm not kidding you.
That's when you know you have a good friend right there.
And then he drove those pizzas back, and so we cooked those for lunch as we're watching games, and they were they're not as good as sitting in the restaurant. But Scotty, Lloyd, like really dang close. It was incredible.
I can hear your mouth watering right now.
Oh,
are you eating some cold pizza right now?
If there were some leftovers, Lloyd, I would be eating. But I did eat the leftovers, and everybody in the house is upset with me because there was leftovers, and I did not ask. I just ate. But they know that it's my favorite food in the entire world is that Giordano's pizza. And then we watched a bunch of games, and then Scotty went and got ribeyes. And thick cut, juicy ribeyes, threw them out on the grill. And so we polished the day off with some ribeye steaks, a nice Caesar salad, really fresh corn on the cob. And so yesterday was just one of the more perfect football days that I've ever had in my life.
Oh, my diet?
Gosh. I'm so
what
jealous.
Stinking diet? I don't need no stinking diet.
Oh, Lloyd, Scotty, I did go with that Coke.
That boy.
Yeah, calories.
Good Lord.
Lloyd,
ribeyes.
Lloyd, don't be putting the guilt trip on him.
I'm not
man
guilt
living
tripping.
his best life.
That is so.
I am happy for you, Hans. You know what I am?
You guys
I am
have been
happy
so
for you.
on the ball, and I'm so proud of you guys. Like, but
Lloyd's going to turn me into Karen Carpenter.
I'm not. Stop.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm glad you were able to have some Giordano's and get those carbs in you and have
You're shaming.
We're not all born with the metabolism of a hummingbird, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We all don't live on no filters and
no
coffee.
filters. Knock it. Yeah. Okay, coffee, yes. No filters. Stop. Knock it off.
Hey, I'm looking at the Big 12 scoreboard yesterday. Man, Central Florida's kind of falling apart. They lose to Florida. Kansas is a complete dumpster fire. Arizona State gets them 35-31. And then how about Arizona coming off a huge win against Utah? They follow it up by losing to the Fighting Texters of Texas Tech. I mean,
and they're Texas 3-0 in the Big 12.
Would you call them the fighting what?
The Fighting Texters.
The Fighting Texters to go and get a win against the Wildcats. I watched that whole game very, very closely, Scotty, and it was a crazy back and forth. And Arizona had an opportunity to seal a pretty solid lead at the back end, and they get a field goal blocked. Texas Tech takes possession, goes the length of the field, scores a touchdown, and seals it. And Arizona looked really good at times, and there were moments where they caught momentum, and it was like, oh, that's the Arizona team I watched against Utah. And then there were moments defensively where they looked completely inept. But remember, Baron Morton is a top 5 Big 12 quarterback. You've got Taj Brooks, who's a top 5. Actually, he's the number 2 running back in the Big 12. I don't know. Coming out of this one might be even more because I thought Taj did some pretty good work. And they've got a top 5 receiver. So this is a really good Texas Tech team, and they did work, and I was kind of shocked. But the Big 12 is strange. And I was looking at this. The 3 opponents in October for BYU, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Central Florida all lost yesterday.
And Oklahoma State got smoked by the Mountaineers.
Yeah, 2 of the 3 October opponents for Utah won. And so this goes back to our thoughts of what October would be for BYU as compared to what October might be for Utah. And there's no telling what this conference is right now or what these teams are capable of. It just feels like it's so up in the air. But you're right. Central Florida doesn't look like that unbeatable beast that we thought they might be building into. And Oklahoma State, I think they may be one of the bottom 4 in the Big 12 right now. And I think Arizona, based on what's presented, Arizona is extremely beatable. So we'll see. That just feels like October has a lot more potential with Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Central Florida than it did when we were kicking this season off.
You know, the team that just keeps churning out wins and just quietly stays under the radar, and probably a lot of it is based on their geography, is Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Iowa State is, they take care of Baylor 43-21. They're ranked. They came into that game ranked 16th. I'm just looking at Brett McMurphy. He just released his poll. He's got Iowa State ranked 7th. And again, they just
I was going to say 10. That's a jump, but you had a lot of people lose.
Yeah, and so they very quietly are just churning out win after win, and nobody's talking about them, which I'm sure that's the way they like it.
That is crazy because
they're undefeated.
BYU avoids Iowa State.
Yep.
Utah's got Iowa State. I guess the point I'm trying to make, guys, is the strength of schedule feels like it's shifting a little bit. Like Arizona State's a little bit more unpredictable now, and that's who Utah takes on. Now TCU is very beatable. Houston had a nice win over TCU, obviously, but I think TCU might be one of the bottom 4 in the conference. And then Utah's got to take on Shedeur Sanders which is unpredictable. That's at Boulder, which we'll see where they're at that point. But then Iowa State and then finishing with Central Florida. It's just like we felt like BYU's schedule was so daunting and impossible. And as things shift, it feels like it's more workable and more doable at this moment. But maybe next weekend it's the complete opposite.
Are anybody having a worse day than Alabama after losing on the road to Vanderbilt?
Oh, man, that was such a good game.
After they just pretty much, they beat Georgia and then follow it up with a loss to freaking Vanderbilt. And I will say, there were a lot of people up in Boise fired up about that because Milroe, who, was part of that Heisman conversation, you lose to Vanderbilt, that might take you out of that Heisman contention. I still think it's Travis Hunter's trophy to lose. But still, there were a lot of people up there that love Ashton Jeanty. Like, all right, well, he may have moved up a spot in that Heisman voting after that loss to Vanderbilt for Alabama.
And the crazy thing is, like, you'd think it'd be a complete fluke. Like, you'd think it'd be like an insane fluke. Now, Alabama had 2 turnovers, if I remember right. I remember a fumble and an interception. I don't think it was more than 2. But Vanderbilt had more first downs. They had more offensive yards. They had higher completion percentages. It was like across the board, Vanderbilt had better numbers, more rushing yards. Alabama was under 100 yards rushing against Vanderbilt. Like, nothing made sense in that game. But you rip goalposts down and I guess carry them to the quad or whatever. I don't know.
They carried them down in Nashville, down Main Street, like Broadway of Nashville.
They should.
It was insane. Like that is what college football is all about. Did you see that they played the Saban comments over the video board for the fans that were down on the field to hear? Like the comments about something that was about essentially.
There's only one easy place to play in the SEC, and that's at Vanderbilt.
Yes, and they were playing it over the speakers and on the video board for the fans to hear at the end of the game. It was awesome. Oh, that was cool.
It's a great moment.
What was it? It had been the last time Vanderbilt won was 1984. The last time they beat Alabama. It was 30-21 in Tuscaloosa. But that was the last time that they beat them. It was 4 years ago.
When Vanderbilt scored 23 points, I don't want to say it was 23 when they had 23 points at halftime or in the second quarter. That was the same amount of points total that Vanderbilt had scored against Alabama in the last 20 years. Was 23 points, and they had 23 in the second quarter.
Yeah, that is as wacky as college football can get. Yesterday was wild.
All the
Tennessee lost.
Yes, lost to Arkansas, and by the way, Miami should have lost. That was
how about
they
that?
got so much help from the refs. I'm not a fan. I'm so just irate about what they did in that game. It was so dirty, really dirty.
I have not seen that game, so I'm looking forward to going back and watching that.
Yeah, they got a lot of help. There should have been a targeting, and then they reviewed it. They didn't call it on the field, but then they reviewed it, and it was obvious targeting. I mean, it's textbook targeting. I don't know if you saw it, Hans. This game was late. This was like one of those Pac-12 after dark games. It was ACC after dark is I guess what it is now, but it was obvious targeting that they would have been able to run out the clock, and the game would have been over. They review it and they decide it wasn't targeting, and they have to punt because that was on fourth because they went for it on fourth down and they didn't get it, but it was targeting, and so they had a punt, and then Miami goes down and wins it. So
and wins it. In the final seconds.
It was dirty.
I was actually watching because Texas Tech and Arizona were playing at the same time. I was watching that game because obviously getting ready for BYU Arizona, calling that game next week, and Trying to figure out who the hell Arizona is, man. That's Noah Fafita is unpredictable. When they get momentum, guys, they're deadly. I just think momentum at 2:00 in LaBelle Edwards Stadium is going to be tough to come by.
Yeah. Well, Hans, have yourself a good time down there, man.
Hey, I did want to make a comment because we did watch the UFC fights in Salt Lake City.
Oh, yeah.
Out here last night. And it was good. It's crazy. I don't want people to pay attention to the criticisms that are coming out because there's a lot of criticisms that fight fans in Salt Lake City don't understand how to cheer for fights. And, there's these MMA enthusiasts and purists that think that you're supposed to fan a certain way, and they're all upset and hurt about how Salt Lake City was cheering, and then there was some bad officiating. There really was. There was a bad ref in the cage.
I mean,
is
even
this like,
Dana White.
Is this like Rule 2, always wear blue? Is that what we're talking about? Like telling people how to fan? Is this what we're talking about?
That's exactly it. It's like, you know what? Shut up.
Shut up. Me how to fan.
We have so many UFC fighters that have come out of this state. This state has been watching sanctioned fights long enough. They know how to fan. Shut up. You let us as Salt Lakeans cheer how we want with fights. And you enjoy it when you come. Now, I did see some lungs taking some big breaths. And, Scotty, you remember the last time they were in Salt Lake City, that was one of the buzz things was, well, the fighters don't want to go back because the elevation was killing them. Cry me a river, dude. These are the most finely tuned athletes in the world. They're fine. But you were going to say, what were you talking about? Did you see Dana was upset about the officials?
Dana White said that the scoring was as bad as anything he's ever seen. And I'm like, wow.
The judges were bad. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy when the guy running your organization comes out as strong as that, saying that, they screwed up.
Were the judges from Salt Lake?
No.
Okay.
They're not. When Juliana Pena won her fight and reclaimed the belt from Pennington, which that was a 5-round slugfest, the first thing she said in the mic was, it's been a crazy night. The judges have been bad. And the judges awarded her a 5-round victory that really could have gone either way. And I'm like, when the judges swayed your way and you still feel like you need to comment on the judges, it's probably been a bad night. And then if you guys didn't see it, there is a picture. I think I retweeted it last night or maybe this morning.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So all I'm going to say is Pereira is the most intimidating fighter in the UFC right now. His hands are just made of lead, and it's almost like he's got cement in his gloves because what he hits busts open. And he basically split the face in about 3 or 4 different spots. And
I'm just looking at the picture right now.
Yeah, he laid down hammers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that right eye his right eye, I don't think we'll see the light of day for another week or two.
Nope. It's bad. And, you wonder how long-lasting a beating like that could take. He took him into the 4th round. He beat him pretty solid in the 3rd. Roundtree gave him a little bit of a battle in the 2nd, but took him into the 4th and then just started to meticulously land calculated blow after calculated blow and dismantled his face. But I called that. That's exactly how I saw it. That's how everybody saw it. He was the number 8 contender, guys. He shouldn't even have been in the ring with him. But what I want to tell people is, shut up. Don't you dare tell Salt Lake City how to fan with MMA. We'll fan how we want to fan, and we pack the place. And guess what? You go to Vegas for a UFC card, you guys, which I've been to a few. They don't show up until the main card starts. Prelims were packed. So, you want to fight on a prelim card and actually have fans that care and show up and make you feel good about your fight? The UFC better take a look around and be like, geez, these guys show up early. I mean, when they pay $180 for a nosebleed seat, they're going to come and watch every prelim every main card, every main event, and they're going to cheer. And you know what? If we cheer or boo, it doesn't matter. And guys, this is what, and Scotty, I think this might be one of the reasons that you're not as big an MMA fan as some. Sometimes they can get boring. When they clinch and lock and they're on the ground and the officials aren't bringing them up, it can get boring. And I know that fighters get mad when they get booed when they're trying to gain position on the ground, but it gets boring. And if I've paid $180 and I'm sitting up by Karl Malone's banner in the rafters, and it's boring, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to boo. So what? Make it fun. And Dana White, he actually commented on it. He was like, yeah, we got to stand them up. We got to make this better. Like if these two aren't trying to gain position to hurt or end the other, then we need to stand them up. So anyways, I just saw 3 or 4 big names in mixed martial arts trying to talk about our fans, and that is, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
Not up in here.
No, sir. Nope. Well, gentlemen, hope you have a great Sunday. Hans, I'll see you back in Salt Lake City. Enjoy your time down there. Tell Scotty and the rest of the boys hi for me. One of these days, I would love to hang out with you for sure down there, especially if you're going to eat like that.
Give everybody in Declo big hugs, Scotty. I know, man. You and people don't know, and you'll never talk about it, but I do want our Morning After podcast listeners to know Scotty's a freaking warrior. You're a warrior, buddy. Like, and I know you don't like to hear it or talk about it, but I just what you're going through and what you soldiered through yesterday to give the Utah State fans the voice they need and demand. You're a freaking warrior. So
demand,
anyway,
they need, and they deserve.
Yeah, because. Well, we were like, Lloyd and I were like, well, what's the option? It was like, does he give the mic to Ajay? And it's like, dude, Scotty's gonna go. Scotty's gonna be there.
My dad yesterday is like, are you sure you're good enough to go? And I'm like, Dad, we grew up with the phrase, the pigs still eat on Christmas growing up. Like, it could be Christmas morning and we had all the toys and we were all playing and Dad's like, pigs still eat on Christmas. Let's go. And I'm like, hey, pigs still eat on Christmas, man. That's the way we were raised. So,
no breathers
guys,
on this show. No breathers on this show.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, buddy.
You guys are the best, man. Appreciate it.
All right.
Safe travels. It's your Morning After podcast. Hans, Scotty, Lloyd, Cole, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This has been your Morning After podcast with Hans, Scotty, and Lloyd Cole. Catch more of the Hans and Scotty Show weekdays from noon to 3 and in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your podcasting platform of choice. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.